Hey everybody, how's it going? Jenazad here. So this is the new character Zhezhi. I can't really say her name all that well. I'm trying though. But she's the new character that just came out today, and she seemed pretty interesting on paper, but I really wanted to actually try her out on release with my whole team to see how she actually performs. So this is my current build. I did not actually get her weapon, so I'm using String Master. I would say it's the second best weapon overall for her, but obviously her signature weapon is much stronger. So it's giving me crit chance, so I have a lot of crit rate. Also, as for set, I'm using the Glacio set. Now, she is mainly more of a supporter sub DPS, so a lot of people are using Moonlit set on her. However, I want to really push her limits, see how much damage she would actually be doing with something like Glacio set, so this is what I was trying, even though it doesn't do as much while she's off field, and Moonlit set is actually buffing your main DPS. I am using this one as the actual main, just because I think it's a little bit better than the Lampy Lumen overall as well. So this is my up skills as well. Her most important thing is definitely her ult. It's the bulk of her damage. It's what she's doing all the time when you swap to another character and she's off field. Then next important is her forte, and then probably skill, and then attack, and then maybe intro skill. They're kind of all around the same, and they're not nearly as important as the liberation or the circuit. Then of course you definitely want to get both of these. Damage boost and also giving resonance energy to the next resonator that comes in is pretty amazing too. And then I have no dupes. Didn't pull anymore. In fact, I lost my 50-50 to Verena, which really sucked, so I double pitied her, but whatever. So how is this character overall? Well, from my initial just trying her out and testing, I think her damage is pretty amazing. She is not a main DPS, and you shouldn't use her that way. It's the same as a character like Yinlin. You're not using her as your main DPS, and if you do it, they're not going to look that great. But when you pair her with other characters, she really shines. Now, what's so cool about her is she has a completely unique, different playstyle to most other characters. So this is just her normal attack. She does stuff like this, nothing really that crazy. But she becomes a lot more interesting when you actually use her skill. So as you can see with her forte bars, when she gets more of them up, when she uses her skill, she makes these two little cranes. And also, you can do a hold attack that makes a third crane. When I use the skill again, I go to the crane, and then I do an attack. So it makes her actually really mobile in combat, super mobile, and as you can see, I got it right back immediately. She gets them so quickly, and they actually do a pretty significant amount of damage. And when she uses it, it actually pauses time too, making it really, really good at dodging boss attacks in the middle of a fight, which is super important in tower, I would say. But also, interesting enough, you can use it in the air if you hold the attack or if you're jumping, and then you can be fighting a bit in the air like this, where she's really mobile, just able to go all over the place. Really, really cool playstyle, very unique. No other character can do this. Now her ult, now what's cool about this is every time you attack, a bird flies in, right? And this is a coordinated attack. It happens even when you're on someone like Zhezhi. So that bird is still flying in, still doing damage, and as we all know with a character like Zhezhi, what she really needs is coordinated attacks, because then she's able to use this. Really, really, really strong, right? And then as you get the birds to fly in, it'll start building it up again. I lost the birds there, but you get the idea, right? So that's what's really good about her, is she's constant on-field damage where you spam her ult, and she even has good mobility and decent damage by herself when she's on the field. So she kind of does a lot. Now you could say Yinlin does the same, where she does some damage when she's on field, then she puts the mark, you swap to another character, she has the off-field thing. What's cool about a character like Zhezhi is that her ult actually lasts a really long time. It lasts 30 seconds and can hit 21 times, 1 per second. So 21 seconds essentially of just active damage. That's a really long time. I would say if you have 130% energy regen, she can probably keep it up most of the time. Now, there are some little downsides compared to someone like Yinlin. She's not quite as good at quick swapping as Yinlin is, because Yinlin is able to easily cancel out of all of her abilities, and that leads to a lot of really cool combos where you do an attack, immediately swap to someone else, then swap back to Yinlin. So she doesn't really work the same way. You kind of want to just sit on the field with her, use all of her abilities, then swap to another character, and then you kind of have to wait until she's able to use her ultimate again, and you're not really using her in that same way. Now, I do think she is much better though than Yinlin with a character like Zhezhi. Ignore my terrible crit chance. She actually does pair super well. All those birds flying in build a crazy amount of forte bar, and I think it makes her honestly a really, really good unit. Her damage itself also is pretty high. I tried her just as a solo DPS in the tower, And she wasn't winning any awards for her damage, but against a character like Scar, she was actually putting out a pretty solid amount just in a pure 1v1. Now, I was able to kill Scar in a 1v1 with my Chisha, just by themselves, but it did take me down to the very wire to be able to get 3 stars. So I think a character that's not considered a main DPS, doing this much damage by themselves is honestly really solid, and she does really amplify the team's overall power. Now, this leads to the question, should you actually pull this character? Well, I lost my 50-50 and then did a second pity, so I got kind of screwed over, but I do think that this character is really good. 1, if you like her playstyle and it interests you whatsoever, and 2, if you want a really good support damage dealer that can possibly pair with someone like Sanhua as well. She actually could be used with Sanhua as 2 sub DPS and possibly used as a whole team, or if you want to use her with someone like Jinshi, of course, or just a solid damage dealer that you can kind of pair with any sort of team. She kind of fits in that way too. Also, do you need her weapon? How important is it? Well, I would say this weapon is pretty incredible. It gives a crazy amount of damage, as you can see here. Attack percent is always amazing. Resonance skill giving all this attack damage as well is huge. And the outro skill gives so much basic attack damage that people are actually thinking that when you have this weapon, the best thing to possibly do is you go to Moonlit set and you use 2 4-pieces and you go for crit rate, crit damage instead of going for the 3 cost, because you have so much basic attack damage that you don't really need the Glacio main stat from those 3 costs. It's just not as important. This is so incredibly good. So is it worth it? Kind of, but if you have Yinlin's weapon, that totally works as a substitute, even though it's not quite as good. If you have the 5-star standard weapon, it's definitely worse. They're estimating it somewhere as like the 5-star weapon is at 100% power. This is at 120% power on Predwin. That's what they're kind of mathing it out as. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but this is definitely much stronger, even just by looking at the fact that it has crit damage as its main stat. And these kinds of weapons get so much crit damage or crit chance, more than other weapons, in fact, from the main stat. So it is worth it if you're really interested in this character. She's not the absolute must-pull, end-all, be-all. I don't really believe in must-pulls and Wuthering Waves at the moment. There's tons of great characters, but I don't feel as though you're completely screwed over if you don't own a specific one. Now keep in mind though, the next banner, you don't actually have to pull on, because we're getting a free 5-star. We're getting Yao for free for everybody. You may have tested him in the story as well. He seems pretty cool, and he seems like a pretty solid character as well. But maybe you want to pull for his weapon, and it is incredibly strong, because Yao's standard 5-star weapon is terrible, while his weapon is giving crit chance plus all these buffs to Resonance Liberation, so it's pretty huge for him, so you may consider getting that if you're really enjoying the character. And in the future, we have Shorekeeper, and probably a rerun, but there is also going to be a new 4-star named Yohu or whatever, so she's also going to be coming out. So just think about how you're going to actually divvy up your pulls, but maybe you want to pull for this character because you kind of like her, and there's not really anything you have to pull in the near future, so maybe it's worth it. All in all, I think she's a great character. I think she's really fun. Some people are going to love her playstyle. Some people might kind of hate it though. But all in all, pretty good. Thanks a bunch for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to the channel, and I hope to see you next time.